Hi, it is winter. Today I want to use up some of my scraps. I have this bag, and then some skeins that are left over from other projects or that I bought singly at the thrift store. And I want to use some of it up. So the first thing I'm going to make is the Chroma hood by Cosmati. Because it is gift giving season, I'm going to be making this hood for my brother. And he likes different shades of blue, is what he requested. This pattern uses a 5.5mm hook and it's designed to use your scraps, so this should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to go through this and lay out a color palette and then I'll get started. Here's my pile of scraps in the color palette. I'm going to try for my brother's Chroma hood. I'm going to try and use up my smaller scraps first. This is an entire skein that I ripped into 20-inch pieces because I was doing nail binding. This is 100% wool. I don't nail bind anymore, so it'll be nice to use that up. And then this blue I've used to make a lot of different things, and this white as well, mostly smaller projects. I think I might stick to these because his partner wants one in either green or yellow. Those are her favorite colors. I have this like teal yarn, and then I have so much of this yarn that I was using to make socks out of. I don't know if that looks good though. Does that look like a cohesive color palette? I'll start with this. Here's my progress after a couple of hours. This is the first step done. You start by doing a rectangle, and then I guess you're going to pick up around the edges. It's really hard to measure gauge in this stitch pattern. I find it hard to measure, at least. I wish that this pattern had more detailed measurements, or maybe even just measurements instead of row counts. I find that that's easier to follow, especially for this type of pattern where you're holding two strands of yarn to equal a different strand of yarn every few rows. This blue is just held singly, but every other color in here is held doubly. Yeah, I think that that would be easier to measure the gauge with. That's what I'm gonna do for now. It's a week later. I finished the body of the balaclava and I added a few extra rows because it fit me, but my brother has a bigger head than me. I put it on my husband too, but my husband doesn't have as much hair as my brother has. So I just wanted to make sure that it had definitely enough space. Most of the yarns I was using for this project so far have been wool, and it is pretty itchy. The main wool I was using was this blue wool that I had previously made a Sophie scarf out of. And I do wear that Sophie scarf a lot, but it's very itchy, and I don't want my brother to not wear this because it's itchy on his face. So for the ribbing, I decided to use this leftover Hobbii 8-4 from when I made my Cora vest, and I'll use that for the ribbing around the bottom as well as around the face. I'm using 2 strands around the bottom, but I think I'm only going to use 1 strand around the face so that it's not too bulky because that folds over. This is the amount of yarn that I had before out of this color palette, and this is what I have after. So I did use up 3 balls of scraps, which is pretty good. I'm pleased with that. However, I don't know if you remember, but in my fiber podcast, I talked about how every member of my family has picked one name for who they're going to make a Christmas present for this year. And I picked my sister-in-law, and I made her these lovely wool pot holders, and I added this thumb bit here so that when you're grabbing things out of the oven, your fingers are protected as well. And I lined them with cotton. I have since found out that my sister-in-law is pretty allergic to wool, and so she won't accept these. And that was my sister talking, not my sister-in-law. I don't think my sister-in-law knows that I had already finished these, but now my husband and I get some nice pot holders, and I need to rethink what I'm going to make for my sister-in-law. I was thinking of a lot of different things. I stuck on the idea of making a hedgehog pouch because I love making little pouches out of knitting or crochet. I think that they're really fun. I found this free pattern to make egg holders that are shaped like fish. It's a Chinese tradition, I guess, in one of their holidays to have a necklace with an egg in it. I think it's for spring. I can't remember the exact details about it. There's this free pattern on Ravelry for a fish pouch, and it's adorable. And I thought I could alter it to make it look like a hedgehog. My sister-in-law has a hedgehog, and she loves hedgehogs. They're like her favorite critter. Because she has so many allergies, she can't handle dogs or cats. and hedgehogs don't have very much fur, so they don't spark her allergies. I did that, but the thing is, I didn't have enough colors in yarns that were not wool. So I had to go to the thrift store to supplement my stash in order to make these actually look like hedgehogs. I bought this ball of acrylic in this like tan color. This came with 2 balls, and it's this really soft pink acrylic. And then I also got some yellow for my other sister-in-law, who I'm going to make a matching balaclava to the one I'm making for my brother, and her favorite colors are yellow and green. So I got some yellow because I didn't have any yellow yarn and it was there, so I figured that this will be good for that. And I got more than just this ball. I did crochet a little hedgehog out with that free pattern, and I think it does look very aquatic still. It's currently wet because I washed it, and this is what it looks like when it's open. And it is very cute, and I followed the pattern pretty well exactly. I just didn't do the scale pattern all the way around the body. I only did it 2/3 of the way around, and then I left a third blank on the bottom and added some little legs because hedgehogs have the tiniest little legs, so I thought that this made it look more like a hedgehog. And then I added this blue single crochet around the scales because I feel like what made that free pattern look so good with the fish was all the different colors put together. I'm not super pleased with how this turned out. Here's what it looks like closed, which does make it look more like a hedgehog. I think that I'm happy enough with it. I was wanting to sew sequins onto the scallops, and so I was carrying this around looking for my sequins, and I couldn't find any sequin, but it really felt like I was holding a little friend, so hopefully my sister-in-law will feel similarly. And I did order some sequins from Etsy in order to sew those on to this. I also have plans to make more presents out of my scraps. Not just my scraps, but some things in my stash that I have decided to no longer make what I was going to make out of it. I have all of this wool left over, and this was left over from, I made a bonnet for my sister. Then I also made these pot holders, and I still have this much left. And so I made a little shawl zippered pouch for my coworker. It's really cute. I still need to sew in the zipper and the lining. I think that she'll enjoy this. I love making this pattern. This is the Mazalka pouch by Rat and Sea Witch, and I've made so many of these, probably like 6. They're just very enjoyable to make. Another thing I want to make for my sister-in-law, because I'm not super pleased with how this hedgehog pouch turned out, I want to add 1, maybe 2 more things to this. I was thinking, because I have so much of this beige yarn left over, I could make my sister-in-law a toque, and so I could use the brown and the beige that are left over from making the hedgehog pouch, though this brown was in my stash previously, and then also try and see if I can find a bit of a blue yarn because my sister-in-law's favorite color is blue, and just make a like scrap beanie out of those 3 colors. I think that'll look nice together. I was also considering making my sister-in-law like a market bag that she can tuck in her bag. And so I was wondering if this blue that I have left over from making a couple of lace caps, as well as I used this for the blue on the hedgehog. I have this much left and it's pretty dense. I was wondering if I could hold this blue with this pink. Those colors look nice together, right? So I might make that today for my sister-in-law. I'm still tracking away on the balaclava for my brother, but that's not a Christmas present, that's just a present. So this one has a timeline, and that's why I've paused in the balaclava and moved on to the presents for my sister-in-law. I did want to say that when I went to the thrift store to get that yarn for my sister-in-law, I also found this yarn there, which is a black blown yarn. I think it's very similar to the Hobbii Portobello yarn, but there's a lot more here than is in a ball of Hobbii Portobello. And it has gold in it, and I think it's very festive and beautiful. I never used to like sparkle in my yarn. I don't know what it is, but I love the whimsy in it. I want to make myself a bonnet out of this using the Holly bonnet pattern by Kukuruku Crochet, so that'll probably be in this video as well. And I think that's all I wanted to talk about for now. I will show you when I have some progress. It's the next day. Sorry if my hair is a mess. I just came out of the shower. Updates. I finished the presents for my sister-in-law. I decided to scrap everything that I previously mentioned. I was talking to my sister about like what might be nice, and I made her this bag that she can hang in her kitchen and store onions in. I started following a pattern for it, but in the end I didn't use that pattern. I just winged it, and then I modified that to make a smaller one that can hang beside it to hold garlic. And as I said, she loves cooking, so I think that these two things to help with storage in their small apartment in the kitchen is a good complement to the hedgehog, which is still drying. I don't know if you saw this well before. My camera's broken, so I'm filming on my phone, so I can't see what's in frame, but there's that. Another update I have, I've finished the bottom ribbing on my brother's balaclava. I'll just put it on quick. And I'm very pleased with how it's turning out. When I wear it, I feel like I'm a medieval princess running through the forest and using a hood to hide her identity, you know? And I know this isn't for me, but maybe my brother will have similar vibes, like fantastical feel to it, you know? All I have left to do is the ribbing around the face and then the drawstring that goes through the ribbing. I was saying previously that I was gonna hold the cotton single to do that around the face, but now I'm concerned that that will be too thin, and so I'm still gonna do it double. I don't think that this cotton folded in half to make the drawstring will be too thick. It's very cold in Alberta, so I think the thicker the better. A nice thing about balaclavas is when you go into a building, like say you're going grocery shopping, you need this to walk through the parking lot. But once you get inside, the heat's on, so you can just pull off your hood. Magical. My plans for this evening are to finish the face ribbing on this. I don't think I'm gonna actually make one for my sister-in-law. I am just kind of balaclava out, though I may end up making her a regular beanie out of crochet, because there's this pattern I've been wanting to try for slip stitch short row beanie that has no bulk on the top and it just fits your head really well, but it's also stretchy, and that's in crochet rather than knit. It is the next day. I'm wearing the same thing because it's cozy time. I had to cut myself off yesterday, even though I had talked for another like 5 minutes after that last clip, because the heat turned on and it made the audio very hard to listen to. Here's a recap. First, we'll talk about the balaclava, which I finished. I don't know which side has more space, but whatever side has more space, I will show what this balaclava looked like before I folded in the ribbing. You can tighten the balaclava so that it is really warm. I put this on my husband and it looks really good on him. Okay, so that's the balaclava done. 2 final projects for this video. I want to finish this shell pouch. I started pinning the zipper in yesterday. So you sew in the zipper and then you sew in the lining. I need to do that. And then, guess 3 projects. I ordered sequins. They should be here by the end of the week. And I want to sew those onto the hedgehog. And then last but not least, I want to make this frog bag by Projectarian for my coworker. I recently taught her how to crochet and she's been doing it nonstop since I taught her, which is great. And the last time we crocheted together, I taught her about the term frog, which is, if you don't know, when you rip back in your knitting or your crochet, it's called frogging. And I don't know why, but that's what it's called. And so I want to make her this frog bag that she can use perhaps as a project bag, and it'll keep her company while she frogs. This frog bag is really neat because it has a bunch of interactive features. For example, the legs have these bracelets that you can use to hold the leg up to the body of the frog, or they can dangle down. And the drawstring closure is pink like a tongue, and then there's a fly toggle that you slide down to close the mouth. And I saw this project a couple years ago, but I never actually made it because I was trying to make only practical things, and I'm not sure how practical this will be. But now I have an excuse because I have a friend I'm making it for, and I kind of feel like maybe I'll make one for myself too, and then we can have matching project frog bags that will keep us company while we frog, because it's inevitable. The yarn I want to use isn't technically scraps for the main color. I was making the Darjeeling blouse by Trust the Mojo out of this Hobbii 8/4 cotton in a sage green. It's worked bottom up, which I don't love, and knitting with cotton is pretty unpleasant, even with Hobie's very soft cotton. I don't like it. Instead, I'm going to crochet with it. That's much more pleasant. I have this bag of green Hobie that I'm going to use, which is what I was using for the Darjeeling blouse. I also have this white nylon that I got at the thrift store a few years ago, and I did use that in the balaclava a little, and this will be for the fly wings. This is the pink that I got for the hedgehog drawstring closure, because I was going to do a similar drawstring closure as with the frog for the hedgehog, but I didn't actually for no good reason. I have a lot of this pink, so I'm going to use this for the frog as well. Instead of the yellow for the decorations around the frog, I'm going to use a mixture of this gray and this blue. The pink I'm only going to use for the drawstring tongue, because I want to try to stick to the cotton as much as possible. So I'm going to minimize the amount of other textiles that I'm going to use. The pink is acrylic. So I'm using cotton, acrylic, and nylon for this project. I believe the pattern calls for solely acrylic, but I don't have that because I try to avoid acrylic. My friend is allergic to wool, so I couldn't use any wool for this, similar to my sister-in-law. Those 3 projects need to be finished, and then I will end this video, and I guess I'll start another one because I have more scrap projects I want to do. Or maybe scrap's the wrong term. I have more stash projects I want to do. I will talk to you again when I have updates. Hi, it's a couple weeks later. I have a camera again, so that's exciting. I'm here to wrap up this video and talk about the things that I have finished. I have finished the shell pouch, which I previously mentioned. Here is some footage of it because I already gave it to my coworker. All I had to do was sew the front to the back, sew a lining, and sew the zipper in. The zipper and the lining finish the pouch really neatly, and I do believe my stitches are quite tidy. I got the sequins. I sewed the sequins on, and I used these little black beads to hold the sequins in place. They are very iridescent, and I think it's beautiful. And I also redid the drawstring on this. I did the drawstring in the same color as the body. I just made a toggle also. It's stuffed with those market bags that I made her to hold the garlic and onions in her kitchen. I thought about redoing the eyes, but I think with the sequins on, this looks much better. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I did think it was a little ugly before, but now that the sequins are on there, it looks more intentional and beautiful. So I hope my sister-in-law likes it. And then lastly, I finished the frog. I don't have very much footage of the process of making it. In fact, I don't think I have any footage of that. Here it is. I think it's really, really cute. You can see it has these garters to hold its back legs up. The back legs have little toes on them. The garters have flowers, and that's what holds the garter in place. There's this cute little pom-pom collar around the exterior, and then the eyes that look into your soul. The eyes I did sew on a little crooked. I struggled to get the placement right. I'm satisfied with how it turned out. And then there's also little chains at the top of the front arms to hold the front legs up as well, so that it looks like just a frog at rest for the body. For the tongue, that also turned out really cute. I did accidentally put the fly on backwards, so its wings are at the back. I think that this is a really well thought out pattern, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. This is my phone, and it fits in. That's what it looks like full. Yeah, the strap is a little tricky. It seems a little twisted at these parts. I definitely want to make one of these for myself too. I think it'd be really fun to wear a bag like this at a fancy event, but I don't go to fancy events. And this is for my friend. I got her a Clover Moore 5mm hook, and then I also got her some snips because this is my favorite way to cut yarn when I am crocheting. However, I need to make a little case for it so that it doesn't poke holes in the frog. That is everything that I'm making for this video. I really enjoyed the process of using up some of my scraps, and I've already started planning another scrap busting video because I still have this bag full of scraps, as well as I have some stash that I need to bust as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you have a lovely Christmas. I will see you next time. Goodbye.